Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Good topic for you today. Let's do it. What scary encounter still gives you chills to this day? Please remember to like, share, hype, listen and ask for shoutouts, and subscribe.
My friend and I went hiking in the Painted Desert next to where we lived, places we had hiked 1,000 times growing up. And we were only half a mile from my house when we climbed a mesa, and there was a big valley full of gravel and fossils and nothing else on the other side. It was huge. There was no way we could have missed it on all our other hikes. If we approached from any other direction, it wasn't there. Just mesas and the valleys between. Boulders, petrified wood, usual Painted Desert stuff. But climb over that one mesa and there it is. So we went back and went down there because we were dumbass teenagers. And we realized there was also bones in there, a lot of them, rabbits and coyotes mostly. And we were stuck for hours trying to find a way out that wasn't too gravelly and steep. We just kept sliding back down. Finally managed to get back out of the way we came, but I really was starting to think we were going to die in a place that doesn't exist. When I was 12, my parents worked graveyards, and I remember staying up with my siblings playing video games at 3 a.m., and all of a sudden, we hear voices outside our front door. We knew for sure it couldn't be our parents, so I slowly tiptoed to our door, which had a two-way screen, so we could see them and not vice versa. We look out the door window opening, and two guys wearing masks, and distinctly remember hearing, "You think anyone's in there? Doesn't matter." My neighbor across the street had a finicky motion sensor that could be triggered by those classic red laser pointers. So my brother lit it up, and the two gentlemen at my door quickly hurried off. If I had to guess, they'd been watching my neighborhood and assumed my parents were single without kids working graveyards. I don't know. I'm sharing a most recent story. I have a lot, but this one is kind of fresh on my mind. It was kind of late at night, around 11. My ex ordered me a lift so I could go to his house. I got in the car and had a bad feeling in my spine. But the dude was already there, and canceling would have cost $24. Plus, my mom and boyfriend knew, and if I didn't text in half an hour, they'd know what was up and had tracking on my phone. The dude started talking to me immediately, had kinda creepy eyes. I was nice, but not in the mood to talk to him. He asked if I lived at the apartment and I said no, which was pretty creepy to me. He started talking out of nowhere about how he moved from the country Jordan and had no friends or anyone to talk to, and I didn't know what to say and apologize, sort of. He talked about not knowing what field of work he wanted to go into and asked about me, and I answered broadly that I was an artist. I was starting to get really nervous. He then blurred out if I could draw a picture of himself and wanted a way for me to send the picture to him when I was done without any lead up. Specifically, was forceful about giving him my phone number. I started to panic and lied, giving him a burner Insta account purposely so he didn't have that info. I also noticed the whole time he was driving very slow. I wanted to text my ex and mom, but thought for a second I left my phone at home. The dude literally offered to drive back to my apartment despite being 10 miles away and doing it for free, which really made my blood rush. I left a hair strand in case crap hit the fan. He kept going on about being so alone and how he's tried dating apps, even though I mentioned I was going to my boyfriend's house. It felt like forever. I kept swerving away from his convo, and then I was finally at my ex's place. He was furious and contacted Lyft. I blocked him and deleted the burner account. One time I used Tinder and saw that same dude blocked. I feel like if I gave him my number or told him that I lived where he picked me up, that something very bad could have happened. When I was 10, my parents had decided to move from Queensland to Melbourne. We moved states by car because we had a dog and didn't want to risk the whole pets and planes situation. The trip was about 2 days long, not including stops and rests. So we were driving through the Pilliga forest at this point, which is very dense around forest land between New South Wales and Queensland, I think. And it's known to have a lot of paranormal history and scary stories. It was the middle of the night, and we had to pull over on the side of the road to let our dog out for a pee. So we all decided we get out of the car and stretch our legs. You're not really supposed to exit your vehicle when you're in Pilliga. At this point, my older brother and I are around the side of the car on our phones. Dad was with the dog toward the side of the trees, and Mum was fixing the dog's bedding in the boot. Out of absolutely nowhere, some old creepy looking man, and when I say creepy I mean like slasher serial killer creepy. This guy had come up behind my mum out of nowhere and had asked what we were doing out in the forest. My mum, very clearly creeped out, answered that we were moving states by car. The guy then rambles off something about travel time and plane expenses and stuff. He then says, "Stay right here. I'll go get you something." And he walks off into the dark behind the car. Keep in mind, we were dead in the middle of Pilliga at this point. There's no servos or buildings or parks or anything in this forest. So where this guy came from, we had no idea, and were fully convinced he was going to murder us. He could have gotten away with it too. After the guy had walked far enough, my dad literally picked up our dog, who's a fully grown Dalmatian, and shoved him back in the boot. My mom was ushering us into the car, and my parents drove off so fast I've never seen before. To this day, I still have no idea where that guy came from. He wasn't even using a flashlight, and it still scares me to think that because the forest is so dense and is rarely driven through. He really could have gotten away with killing us. He might have been a nice guy though, but you never know. My dad, who I'll call Alan, had a specific coat, a fleecy, checked one, not a hoodie. When I was 9, he died. A few weeks later, my mum, who I'll call Vicky, took up delivering the yellow pages for extra money and occasionally took her friend with her. It was on one of these occasions that this happened. I think if it was just my mum, she wouldn't have believed it. It was hot, and my mum and her friend had just driven into the street about 2 to 3 miles from our house. The car window was open, but the doors were still shut. They were just about to get out when my mum's friend stopped and said, "That looks like Alan." According to my mum, this man looked exactly like my dad, down to the specific coat, which he couldn't have needed because it was so hot, and mustache. He passed the car and Mum and her friend were like, "That's so weird." Then my mum's friend looked in the rearview mirror and went, "Vicky, he's gone." My mum got out of the car to look, and he was gone. It freaked her out because he didn't have time to walk to the end of the street and leave, and he couldn't have gone into any of the houses because they would have had the door shut. They delivered the books quickly and left. My mum continued to do the books for another 2 years, but refused to go back to that street again. Almost lost my sister to a couple of drunken guys. She walked down a dark alley to get to the train station. She wore a skirt, a normal, decent skirt. Those guys walked toward her, 6-pack in hand, staring at her like predators. When they passed her, she pulled down her skirt further, and the guy turned and said, "Yeah, pull that skirt down, you." She was pissed and didn't think it, replied, "You don't have to look anyways." He screamed at her, threatened her, and almost beat her with the full 6-pack. She ran away, hearing how the other guy tried to keep him from doing it. I think about it often. I could have lost her to the swing of that 6-pack. Why do people drink so much they're willing to hurt someone that bad over a protective statement. The time I had been going for a walk down the road with my elderly dog Pinto. About a mile in, a large van had stopped in the road in front of us. The person driving got out and began walking toward us. I didn't move, still trying to figure out what the person looked like, when my 8-year-old rat terrier burst into a sprint in the opposite direction. Trusting her instincts and already creeped out, I ran as well. Keep in mind, I live in the country and was in at least a third of a mile of just cornfields on either side of the road. No houses. I ran for my life. I can't think of a time I ran that much and for that fast, but Pinto was always ahead of me, not slowing down for a second. The whole time we ran down that road, the guy had gotten back in his van and was following us, at just enough distance to where whoever was driving could keep up with us. A few feet back, even as Pinto and I's fastest. The second Pinto and I turned onto one of the more main roads, where houses were, the guy took a dirt road going a different direction. Pinto was still freaked out and running, and being young at the time, so was I. We ran the rest of the way home. I don't remember a time I was ever that scared before. Pinto got lots of water and treats. I still credit her to saving me. Back when house parties were a thing, a group of my friends were out and about at a party at some house in the woods. Some dude a friend didn't get along with starts a fight, and they decide to take it out into the orchards because the kid whose house it was didn't want anything damaged at his house. So there's about 6 of us and just the one guy on the other side. He feels like he's about to get jumped, so he calls his friends to back him up. We had no intention of jumping in. It was between them. We just happened to all be there. So this guy's friends show up, and everyone's yelling and posturing. One of them is just standing behind them, all holding his pants up by the side of his belt. Now I know his body language meant he was hiding a gun, but back then I didn't know this. So we're all pushing and shoving. Come on then, come on, let's go. You know the drill. Before anyone could throw a punch, the dude in the back shoots 3 shots in the air and we all scatter. The whole party scattered. My stomach still drops when I think of that night. How close any one of my friends, or even me, could have come to dying that night for a stupid f***ing fight. So it was an afternoon and I was at my house with my grandpa, 2 siblings and 2 cousins. My mom, grandma, dad, and aunt went somewhere. So it was time to go to the mosque, which is super close to our house. Somehow, we forgot that my sister would be alone. So she was alone and hears someone come and she gets scared and so came to the mosque and waited for us while we were praying. So when we were going back home, my grandpa goes to a funeral and leaves us alone. My sister did not tell anything about what she heard, so we go inside. The doors open and start hearing some noises from upstairs. We all just shush and then hear a loud bang. We all started to run outside. All of us are scared and freaking out. My brother goes to call someone. I was the only one left in the yard because my cousins and sister went after my brother, so I started recording. The door was opened, so I saw someone go up the stairs, but just his arm. So I absolutely freak out. Finally, 2 dudes come and ask what's happening. While we were telling them, I saw my dad go down the stairs, told the dudes that it was my dad and thanked them. My dad came early and was fixing the shower. That's what the noises were. We were relieved and had a laugh about it. So, not really anything scary, but definitely got our blood rushing. I must have been around 8 to 10, but when I would sleep, I would randomly wake up in the middle of the night and start feeling a hand on my neck that would slowly push me closer to the wall. Of course, there was no one else in the room. This happened for a few nights, and I couldn't tell my parents because I thought they wouldn't believe me, but every time it did happen, I'd go into their bedroom, say I had a nightmare, and sleep in their bed. My mom has always been a very spiritual person. She usually says she's a Buddhist because it's the closest thing she can relate to her beliefs to, but she isn't a Buddhist 100%. I eventually told my mom about it, thinking that she could understand since we both believe in these strong energies. And she did believe me. She somehow didn't find it weird, and she was able to explain why it was happening, but I was more focusing on how to make it stop, because it was freaking me out. So she told me, tell them to stop. You can't just let them do whatever they want. If you want it to stop, imagine a shield around you protecting your body from any spiritual contact. It worked. Something so simple worked. After that day, I have never felt an energy come in contact with me. I also know this story is obviously far-fetched, and most people will probably say I'm lying, but I don't care. I know what happened, and I know it's true. I get it.
You know, the story made me think that I was the weird one for a minute. When I was a kid, I used to, even as an adult, honestly, I'd lay in bed sometimes and make sure none of my arms or legs were hanging off the sides, and I would say the word shield, and it'd be like this invisible thing. I don't know. That just kind of resonated. Oh, and also, I'm not AI. For better or worse some days. This is all me, all my voice. If there was a way to replicate my voice and do that, then probably save me a lot of time. But I love doing it. So hope to see you guys soon. Have a great day. Enjoy.
When I was younger, probably like 9 or 10, my brother and I used to share a room. It was down the hall from my parents' room, and there was a closet door and a bathroom door in between us. One night, my dad was out late working, and my sister was at summer camp. That meant it was just my brother and mom and I in the house. For context, we live in a house built somewhere in the 1890s. Not really important, but makes it more creepy, I think. So, it was probably 9 to 10 p.m., and we were all in bed. We heard some dudes open and close downstairs multiple times. My brother and I assumed it was our dad coming home until we kept hearing them. We got scared and ran to our mom's room. She said it was probably just our dad coming home, but she called him, and he was still working. We were all very creeped out, but didn't want to go check downstairs. So our mom told us to go back to bed and said it was probably just a wind gust, which at the time I somewhat believed, but now I realize was definitely not true. So we got back in bed, and I could have sworn I heard someone playing the piano downstairs. My brother says he didn't hear it, but I definitely did. The next part is what scared me the most. All the doors from downstairs had stopped. But then the closet door in the hallway I mentioned started very violently and quickly opening and closing over and over. In fact, it was so violent that the next morning we found that the doorknob had fallen off. My brother and I ran into our mom's room again, past the closet door. I remember seeing it open and close, but when we went past it, it stopped, then started again when we were past. Once again, my mom said it was the wind. More believable this time because the closet is connected to the attic, which does get drafts. However, with how violent it was, there was no way it was the wind. We went back to bed and eventually it stopped. I still can't explain it, and nothing like it has ever happened in the house since. I was working at a Mountain Pass mine near Las Vegas and stayed in Searchlight, Nevada during my work week. I carpooled with a few coworkers throughout the work week. There was this time where we were on our way back to Searchlight and seen this lady parked on the side of the road. We were talking about maybe pulling over and seeing if she had some sort of car trouble going on. One of my coworkers said he would be heading back through in a bit, and if she was still sitting there, he'd help her. The next day, he told us no one was in the car. After that workday, a firefighter that knew one of my other coworkers told him that lady blew her head off about 5 p.m., which was a little after we drove past her. Sometimes I wish we stopped, and it still gives me chills how it all went down. This happened literally just 10 minutes ago, and I'm still shaking. I'm visiting my grandparents in the US, and they live in a pretty foresty area. I was making dumb TikToks and stuff outside when I spotted a family of deer. They all soon ran away except one. I thought to myself, how beautiful. I should make a TikTok of this deer. So I whipped out my camera and pointed it right at the creature, but it didn't seem to appear on the video, as if it were invisible, but I could see it clearly with my own eyes. It just didn't appear through my camera, so then sort of weirded out, I put my phone away, Suddenly, out of literal nowhere, the creature shrieked and began sprinting. This was no deer sort of noise. It was like a banshee cry. I've never felt so much terror. I didn't scream, I merely uttered an "oh my god" before bolting back up the house, feeling like prey who'd just barely escaped a predator. I have a huge feeling of dread as I'm writing this. Please someone give me a scientific explanation as to why the deer wasn't showing up on the camera and why it made that blood-curdling screech. I'm terrified. A couple of years ago, I was a dog sitter for a family that lived on the other side of our town, so I always drove my bike. One evening around 10 p.m. when I was just 5 minutes into my trip to their house, I see a guy on a bike just cruising around in the middle of the street, but I think nothing of it. Suddenly I noticed that he started to ride parallel to me on the other side of the road. I found it more weird than creepy at that point, but thought nothing of it. It was the main road to the city center. 5 minutes go by and he's still riding parallel to me. I started to get a bit creeped out, but was still telling myself I was making it a bigger thing than it was. Through the city center, we both go, and I need to take a right turn. He follows. More creepy feelings, but still trying to calm myself. I take a left turn and he follows. More creepy. I take a right and he still follows. At this point, I know he's following me, and every alarm bell in my head is going off. I try to act normal because I'm almost at my destination. I just needed to take one last turn. The moment I take my last turn, I gave it everything I got, and I raced down the street to the front door. I throw my bike onto the driveway and open the door. I run to the 2 dogs and take them with me. The dogs were 2 bull terriers, the 2 sweetest dogs. I look out of the window and see the guy driving up and down the street on his bike, constantly passing the house. After about 30 minutes, he drove off. I waited another 30 minutes and was debating on if I would take the dogs with me or not. This is the only time I've ever felt absolute, genuine fear. I was about to open the door to go inside on a cloudy day. It was sprinkling and pretty cool outside, and I was walking up the stairs. I suddenly stopped and looked over into my neighbor's yard. I don't know what made me look over there, but I witnessed a huge branch fall out of a giant tree. Words can't describe how big that tree is. It's all the way on the other side of my neighbor's yard. I was on high alert, but decided to go investigate. I was walking very cautiously through my neighbor's yard toward the tree. I heard thunder coming from behind me, and I started touching my hair, because if your hair floats, you're going to be hit by lightning. But I continued to take careful, slow steps toward the tree. I heard more thunder coming from behind the tree, but I continued. I was ready to run. I heard loud pattering all around me, and I started backing away from the tree. I heard thunder from behind me again, and I started backing away faster. I heard thunder coming from the tree and saw a white flash behind the tree. At that moment, adrenaline and instinct kicked in, and I ran faster than I thought possible until I made it safely inside. The feeling of adrenaline pumping through my body when the heavy rain stopped was the most terrifying feeling of my life. It happened today. My friend and I were messing about with a spirit app in a cemetery, and it was all fine until I went out later with another friend to do the same thing. Instead of being friendly, the ghost said disturb, killed, black. When I asked if it was dangerous, I was wearing all black. Fast forward to 30 minutes ago. I heard a knock on my bedroom door, but I thought I was just hearing things and ignored it, but still decided to open the spirit app on my phone, and I regret it. When I opened the app, it instantly said door, and I've never closed and deleted an app faster in my life, but I still am sometimes hearing knocks and seeing things. Does anyone have any advice on what this ghost could have be and how to get rid of it?